Hello. Do you communicate with the divine? If yes, by what means? Do you get messages? Do you get any signs? Do you get all of the above? And do you believe that the universe is communicating with you all the time? Or perhaps maybe there are tons of messages, which I don't even say maybe, there are tons of messages surrounds us every day, all the time. But a lot of times people are not aware of them. Hi, I'm Irina Baker, a spiritual awareness wealth consciousness mentor, and I'm here today to dissect for you the newly released American movie Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast, and to put it together with or to how or rather what the movie Beauty and the Beast teaches you about your money stress and debts. If you have any of it, please keep watching. Personally, I am constantly in communication with the divine. My clients, my friends can call me, I'm sure, can call me the queen of signs because I am fascinated by them and I am constantly reading the signs, looking for signs and getting them. I'm sure I miss signs as well because all of us sometimes go without understanding or noticing, but I do get a lot of signs and they help me every single day. And so, what about the movie? A long time ago, I've noticed that I usually get to watch any movie only when there is some kind of message in it and I need to hear it at that moment. So I don't know how it usually works, but the universe brings movies to my attention and makes me quote unquote to sit and watch or go to the movies and watch them when there is a message. And usually I ask these questions about the movie. What is the main core message of the movie for me? What is the main core message of the movie for me? And of course, I mean it in a spiritual way. And the second question I usually ask, why am I getting this message at this moment now? Why am I getting this message at this moment now? Exactly that particular moment, I am watching the movie. What's happening in my life that the movie is trying to convey to me? And of course, what the reason I am speaking here, I'm sharing this information with you so you could apply it to your life. So if you're watching this video, that means you have to hear this message, but of course you have a choice to hear it or not. So I would encourage you to watch it to the end and ask yourself the question, how does this information or this message apply into my life right now? How does this message apply into my life right now? And why do I do that? Because consciousness and awareness are the keys, or rather, awareness is the key to expand your consciousness to change your life for the better, especially in the finances, because it's usually a big issue for many people. So, have you watched The Beauty and the Beast already? I know a lot of people did and loved it. I personally loved it, but like I said, I always also get tons of messages. I will share with you 7 principles that the movie Beauty and the Beast teaches you or whoever gets the message. Of course, there is much more there, but right now we're talking about this particular time. So, what's the story? The story is there was a prince, right? Once upon a time, there lived a prince in a castle. And that prince had everything he wanted. He was rich, he was young, he was handsome. So he had everything. He was royalty, royal by blood, and had tons of power. But unfortunately, he misused or abused his power because what usually they say in a fairy tale, with power comes what? Responsibility. And apparently, our prince did not think or did not care about responsibility. So he wasted or used his time in meaningless activities and was apparently, as the story goes, shallow, judged by appearances, and didn't have a kind, understanding, and merciful heart. And so one time, a spiritual test out of the blue comes into his life. Of course, the fairy tale doesn't say it's a spiritual test, but we know better. And so that spiritual test came in a form of an ugly old woman who entered the castle asking to stay overnight because the storm was raging outside. And it was a simple request. And the prince didn't even need that much he had such a huge castle and he could easily fulfill that request. But because of his heart that didn't have love in it, he he made a different choice. And so here is the first principle. With power comes responsibility. And so ask yourself, what exactly, how in your life with power comes responsibility? You have to be aware of your power and you have to pay attention to the responsibility that you need to exercise when you have the power. And the second spiritual principle is we will be tested and tried in all things. We will be tested and tried in all things. And what that means is it's usually, I think it's my, one of my spiritual principles when every situation is the initiation. I call it the sixth principle. Every situations every situation is our initiation in love. And so it was initiation in love. It was a spiritual test for the prince to pass or not to pass because of his choice. And he made a choice that unfortunately didn't let him pass his spiritual test. And as a result, of course, we know the story how out of this old ugly woman came the great enchantress, a beautiful, young, and very different in appearance, and she put a curse on the prince. Well, in the fairy tale, we called it a curse. Now, in modern language, we don't call situations a curse, but they are actually the same. We mean it the same. The curse means difficult situation, the trouble, the misfortune, something of that nature. So perhaps you didn't call any of your situations a curse per se because it's an old language, but you might call your whatever situation in your life is, you might call it misfortune, a trouble, difficulty, a challenge, and so forth. But it's the same as a curse in our fairy tale. And this curse actually is not a curse at all. And so the next principle is the fourth spiritual principle, never a curse, but a blessing that is containing a gift. And what does that mean by that? If we do not embrace this information with spiritual principle, we will never pass any of our spiritual tests, unfortunately. Because if we look at the situation as a curse, then we're going to resist. And then we have number 5 spiritual principle that says, what you resist persists. And so this spiritual lesson, in fact, the third spiritual principle it was a spiritual lesson when the enchantress made or turned the turned the prince, the handsome prince, she gave him the same medicine, his own medicine. She, quote unquote, judged him by appearance. Of course, that she didn't judge him, but it was the same situation. So he was turned into the beast. And so people could start judging him by his appearance, even though deep inside he wasn't the same, he wasn't the beast. And so that was never a curse. Again, that was a spiritual blessing disguised, and by the way, it was a gift disguised as a curse. So the gift was the situation that he needed to go through. That was his spiritual lesson. We go to school, we send our kids to school, the same with us on earth. So every challenge on our earth in your life is always a spiritual test. You might think it's just something that came to you out of the blue. It never comes out of the blue, and it's never just because. It's your spiritual test to go through, to learn from it, and have your initiation in love. Even if it's about money, which I'm going to talk very soon about, it's still your initiation in love. And so for the beast, it was literal because fairy tale needed to give a message. And so the message was, a blessing was, he needed to suffer. It's not that we were given suffering, but sometimes, through the suffering, we learn much faster and much stronger. So he needed to be in that beast, the beast on the to be a beast on the surface in order to learn how to be kind. So he needed to grow, quote unquote, grow spiritual heart. He needed to change his heart so his heart would become full of love, full of mercy, and full of compassion. And that's what he was learning. So it was difficult situation for him. He was stuck, quote unquote, again, stuck in castle. He was lonely, and the castle was surrounded by the winter. So I'm following the Beauty and the Beast, the newly released version. So I'm giving you the details from that movie. And the winter, the eternal winter, was surrounding the castle grounds. And even though it was June in France, because it was happening in France, the castle was constantly surrounded by snow and the weather that was winter weather. And there were wolves as well, not protecting anybody. They wanted to eat everybody who would try to get through. But I would say these are the fears trying to get people. They were guarding the castle. Fears were guarding the castle. Anyway, so our beast was engaged in the spiritual lesson. And this lesson contained a blessing and the gift. And so what you resist persists. So at the beginning, he was in a foul temper. He could not hold his temper. He was not happy. So he was resisting the situation. And even when Belle showed up, he was still at the beginning not very kind. He was not even trying because he was resisting his station so much. But if you resist the situation, your curse, blessing, gift will persist until you learn to stop resisting. And so every situation is the initiation in love, and that was literal in the movie because obviously the beast, the prince, and Belle were supposed to fall in love with each other despite of appearances and temper and all the circumstances, and that was initiation in love. And so another principle, which the last principle we will talk about today, is that the divine only gives you what you can handle. You've heard that before, and sometimes when the situation is so difficult, we forget about that. We think, oh my gosh, I can't. It's seemingly impossible. For the same with, just imagine for the beast to be alone in the castle with, yes, he had servants for his companions, but they were not even humans. They were enchanted as items, as things. And so we could think that it was impossible situation for him and the rose petals would fall before he would even find somebody, because he couldn't even venture outside. He had to stay in his confinement because he was not for to appear in the world, outside world. and and yet, when in due timing, according to divine timing, Belle showed up herself. As you know the story again, I hope you watched the movie, or maybe after I speak here, you will go and watch this movie because you will enjoy it. And now you will be able to see the spiritual principles in action. And so Belle came by herself because of her father. She showed up in the castle. So the divine opportunity came to the beast to really fulfill his curse, which is a blessing, which is a gift. And now let's apply this to your life. First of all, as if you have debts and you have money stress, so how does this movie even relate to your money stress and the debt? So the first one is, with money comes, I mean, with power comes responsibility. I already messed up all my cards, but you remember, right? With power comes responsibility. And so we know that, first of all, on the surface, it would be pretty straightforward that if you have debt, you mishandle your power of the money in terms of you bought something and you couldn't pay. So that's responsibility. I would never judge any of it in any way because I usually look much deeper, because there is much deeper reason for you to even spend that money and to even not being able to pay that debt, only because there is underlying spiritual lesson as well. It's not the curse, it's a spiritual lesson. And so let's talk about that in terms of money, as I said. So with power comes responsibility. It could be your past lives. It could not be even this lifetime that we're dealing with. And in past lives, many, many lifetimes ago, there was a time which I sure every single one had that time, because we've been living for a long time in the darkness. Just think about history, dark ages, medieval times, all these horrible times when we used and misused and abused our power. We came here as humans to learn about spiritual responsibility, because we have the power. We just have to learn how to use it and use it responsibly. And money is the power, because when you have a lot of money, you have a lot of power to do good or to do bad in the world. And so with money comes responsibility. And in the past, for example, right now, if you don't have the money, or you have money stress, most likely in the past you've done so much, or you've done something that in this lifetime you remember subconsciously. Of course, it's never conscious, it's deep inside, hidden in the recesses of deep subconscious mind, and you reject the money. Have you thought about that? You would, on the surface, you would say, oh, I want money so badly, I need to pay bills, I need to pay off debt. But the truth is, it's your conscious mind. Conscious mind has no clue what the subconscious is doing or thinking or having, and the subconscious mind resists the money. So that's the first principle that you might ask yourself: how does it apply into or to my money situation? The second principle is, here comes the test, spiritual test. So who knows, because I don't know your particular situation, but you never know. Maybe, I'm trying to find that card, we will be tested and tried in all things. So at some point, the test came. You had no idea that it was a test. You made the wrong decision. And what next? The lesson ensured. This test might have been in a past life. It might not be even in this lifetime, but it sure was there, and you did not pass it. And so that's why the situation with money, the situation with debts showed up. And so what do you do next? Well, next comes quote unquote a curse, which is not a curse. But have you ever felt that your debt that you cannot pay at this moment or trying to pay off and it's never there? Here it is, I found it. It's a blessing, it's never a curse, but a blessing and a gift. And so, have you ever thought of, oh, my debts are just a trouble, or it's never ending debt? It's something that gives you a very bad feeling, or the no money stress, never enough. So it gives you bad feeling and it gives you stress because bills have to be paid and debts have to be satisfied, and you feel it as a curse without calling that as a curse. But the truth is, you cannot continue doing that because that means you will not fulfill the next principle, which is what you resist persists. And of course, I have to find it here. What you resist persists. And so, if you stop resisting your money situation and you start saying, okay, this is a blessing and this is a gift. What do I need to learn? What do I need to change? What do I need to release inside myself in order to fulfill or satisfy the spiritual lesson and pass the test that will surely follow? And the test will be initiation in love. How you use your power of love with responsibility. So it will be a lesson of money, but the truth is it will be not lesson, but test of money. It will use the money as means, but it will be initiation in love test. In every situation is our initiation in love. And I think divine gives you what you can handle. So if you might think, oh my gosh, my situation is so difficult right now, I don't have the money, I don't know how I'm going to even survive or how I'm going to live, or my business is not doing well, and what am I going to do? So you need to remind yourself that divine only can give you what you can handle. So that means it's like a video game. In a video game, which I never play, but I know that you have to practice and play and waste and spend time on playing. And then the new level of the video game will open up, will be unlocked for you because you've gained that strength, you've gained practice, and you've gained the skill to be so you can be moving to the next level. The same here. The more spiritually advanced you are, the more difficult tests will come. So unfortunately, we say life will be better. Yes, it will be, but tests will still be there because we're here on the spiritual path. And there is nothing we can do about it unless you're a soul who decided to rest and stay put in this lifetime, and that's usually rare, and although there are such souls. Okay, so and that's what the movie Beauty and the Beast teaches us about spiritual principles that we need to apply to our money situations, to your money stress or your debts, and remind yourselves these 7 spiritual principles. And if you would like to know more about it, because I teach a complimentary masterclass, video masterclass, and I go very deep into the matters of fears, money fears, about money stress, and about debts. And I also talk about how, and I show what 2 consciousness levels are. So one is the hardworking consciousness, and the other one is creative in the flow consciousness. And there are 2 different realities. And where are you in what consciousness? Well, that's up to you to answer. But I explained all of this in my video masterclass. So if you go to igniteyourpersonalpower.com, igniteyourpersonalpower.com, you will see all about it. And the class is called Debt Busters. That bust your debts permanently by turning your attention to the divine. And we cannot just talk about debts, because debts are also money issues, and debts cannot be healed or changed or paid off without changing the money story or the money situation or the money lesson. And so once again, it's about, I'm talking about from how to go, or rather, I explain the differences between hardworking consciousness to in the flow creative consciousness of making money and living your life. And until we meet again, I would encourage you to go to igniteyourpersonalpower.com and watch my video masterclass. Until we meet again, goodbye.